Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff, a podcast where we dive deep into the world of real estate investing and explore the random stuff that makes life interesting. I'm John Whitfield. I'm here with Papa P, or Brandon, aka Papa P from TED Systems and Operations, and Carlos from Investor Fuse in Carrot. Buckle up! Exciting ride ahead of you today. We're heading into part 2 of our series about mobile home investing. Today, we're going to be talking about specifically, what is it, like the questions you should ask, or like what to look for when buying a park. More about getting into parks. And Before we do that, though, make sure you go to links.letstalkrealestate.tv. Follow us on YouTube and all of our other socials. And then, you'll notice there's a QR code over there. Feel free to scan that and donate so that it's support our podcast. So we can grow the audience, but you also get something from donation, which is just message Papa P, and he'll send you anything you want, practically. Maybe anything.
Whatever we're going over on the episode. Typically, I share documents, processes, Excel models, valuation tools, organization tools, whatever it is, or I have no problem sharing those things for anyone who wants to donate. Our success is your success. Your success is our success.
Love it.
I was just over here texting. We have a frozen pipe in one of my parks.
I saw the frustration. I was like, man,
I'm-
I hope that's not from John.
No, it's just well, we don't. So this is the beauty about mobile home parks. We talked last week, and so if it's park owned units, you own all the maintenance, like everything that happens, you have to do it. Of course, if it's tenant neglect, you could charge them back, right? That's in the lease. But with tenant owned, basically you own the land and the infrastructure under the ground. Everything else is on them pretty much. If it's not a part of the main infrastructure, underground pipes, the meter boxes, those types of thing, everything connecting to their unit becomes theirs. So in this one park, we don't actually own this unit, and they're complaining that underneath their mobile, the pipes burst and they want us to fix it. And I'm like, I was like, if it's above ground, that's on you. You want to know why? Because same thing that we do in our park owned units. We text them like Brittany's on it. We have like group text, letters, emails that go out. It's dropping below 30 degrees. You need to keep your faucets dripping, which as Florida boys, never knew that. Even growing up,
My renter sent me one for this weekend because it's getting below freezing.
So I didn't do it up in PA because we had a basement and everything's in the underbelly in the basement, so you don't have those issues of pipes freezing. I didn't know it until I bought my first park in Arkansas, and we actually had a pipe burst because I didn't know this. So now we let everyone know, and I tell them, if a pipe bursts and we're sending you this, it's because you didn't do what we asked you to do, and I will charge you for it. And everyone's under. One guy complained, and like that guy's like, listen, I'll do it, but you need to fix this. And we did. We were like, oh, I didn't know the pipes were laying on the ground. Let's pin them up. Thank you for letting us know. But if we didn't threaten that, he would have never told us, and then we would have been out $3,000. So anyway, that's happened on this one, but we don't own the mobile. We only own the land. And so what could be potentially a very big expense is going to be on them, because what that tells me is that you weren't running your water, or you don't have heat tape on your pipes underneath your mobile to stop those things, and you didn't care enough to do it in that freezing weather. And so depending on where that pipe's burst in the line, because water will freeze and like shatter all the way up to PVC pipes. Like when we had ours freeze, so we had one freeze in a vacant unit and I didn't shut water off to it, split the pipes all the way through into the water heater and burst the water heater. So like it'll freeze and shoot ice through everything. And I didn't know that until after we lost our first unit and we had to spend $3,500 on just repairing it. These are things that nobody had told me as a Florida boy, that like this happens. It's logical when you think about it, but I didn't know it. So we winterize all of our units by putting spigot covers on, and then make sure everybody runs their water, leaves it at a slight drip at night, because moving water freezes at a lower temperature than standing water. And then typically, if you live there permanently, you would probably be putting heat tape on your pipes underneath. which solves 90% of your problems.
Interesting. Yeah, my landlord sent me an email. Make sure you run your water. I'm like, it's gonna be maybe 28 here, and
Oh wow.
I don't see.
But it can
pipes.
happen. Yes, it can happen. Because what happens is if you have your hose connected outside, you have a
Mhm.
hose connected, the hose freezes first, that frozen water touches the water inside, and then it just shoots
Mm,
through. But it just depends on how your pipes are run too. If they're running through a slab versus inside of like like inside, like a lot of people repipe and run through their attics, and it
mhm.
depends on the temperature inside. Because once it gets inside the home, your inside temperature is typically gonna dissipate
Keep 'em
through
warm,
and
yeah.
touch the pipes. Yeah,
Mhm.
but it'll freeze, go under the slab into the concrete, crack everything, and you'll have a leak in your slab.
Exciting. I have to run my taps this weekend then,
You
apparently.
just leave it at a very tight drip in different parts of your like different bathrooms or kitchen.
Are you gonna run your sink at your house?
Me?
Yeah.
Why? I'm in Florida.
So am I. That's my point,
You're
though.
you're in North Florida. It's not getting that cold here.
Is it not? I mean, I'm not that far from you.
I just checked. Low's 53 for me.
Yeah, bro. Like, where the fuck are you?
So, guys, please, I appreciate the people scanning the code. You can see if we have a pipe burst at one of Brandon's
Yeah, I might need help.
facilities. We need everything that we can get just in case something happens here. So, thank you to those that are scanning. We appreciate it.
God, that's
And
hilarious.
and the other thing is too, it's with tenants, it's like a lot of times they don't have the money to fix these things, so you may be on the hook to fix it and then have to bill them back for it and increase their rent monthly or something. I mean, and so I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. And one of my frustrations when I was texting is they had called my plumber, and I was like, how the hell did they get my plumber's number? I was like, that's not cool. Like, you don't get to
Yeah.
call, like, especially if you expect me to pay. But then the response was, there's no plumber in this town. They have to call the plumber 2 towns over, which is where my other park is. I was like, wow, that sucks. How small is this? Where the fuck did I buy this park that there's no plumber in the entire town, that they coincidentally had to call the town, my other one, and they used the same plumber apparently. But I thought it was
Small world. That's
pretty
funny.
funny.
It's
But yeah,
funny.
because we've had people do that in our park where they will call our handymen and our maintenance people and try to order stuff and then try to have us pay for it. And we're like, you didn't get that approved. Like, that's on you. Like, I didn't call that handyman. I didn't call that plumber. I didn't approve that expense. You did that. You have to handle that bill. And once they do it once, we usually don't ever have that problem again. And then they defer to us.
Interesting. Hey, things you didn't know. That's how you owned a park.
Things you didn't know.
Well, let's get into it. So, what are you going to talk to us about parks today, there, Brandon?
So where did we leave off last week? What were we doing?
Last week we were talking about how do I make an offer, and what questions do I have to ask in order to accurately kind of create my offer for a park. And I mean, you definitely kind of led it to the points of like, you need to build some rapport. You want to have some questions to be able to do some kind of analysis, but it seems like due diligence is way more important in mobile home park periods than it is in single family. Not to say it's not important in single family, but like that seems to be where the rubber meets the road in terms of is what was told to you at the beginning, what was advertised is correct, and therefore can you proceed with the price that you got accepted in your contract.
So I think, yeah, we had went through the questions to ask. Then we kind of went through some rough pricing. We didn't get to any of the financing or what happens when the deal's accepted, and then kind of like any of that stuff. One of the things kind of sticking on this topic is of what like the AC or the plumbing and the repairs and all that stuff. So one of the things when you're doing your due diligence is like the stuff that you don't know. So John, I want to share my screen. So here's a look at a park. This is our first full year. So we own this park for about a year and a half, maybe not even a year and a half, a year and like 4 or 5 months. And so we had our first full year of operating this park. And so kind of what I was looking at here is kind of some stuff. we go through like how much work it is to operate like an occupied park owned units, right? So we have 36 lots in this one, 3 are tenant owned, and then we have three turnover ready to rent. So we have a total of 27 occupied units at the current moment. We have 3 people moving in February. So for a total of, we have 10 new tenants. So anyway, what I'm getting at is here is a look of what 1 full year of owning a park owned unit looks like and how much work we did to it that we were not expecting to do when we bought the park, because I did not ask the right questions and was not aware of what questions to ask on my first park. Luckily, with my background and experience, I was able to handle it, but you know. So let's take a look. Total units is 36. We did 12 turnovers. So you'll hear me say that like we turned over a third of our park. And so that's a third of the park right there, 12 turnovers. When we bought it, the guy was on month-to-month leases. That is a red flag for high turnover. Month-to-month verbal leases. As soon as we did it, we started having
You
people
say
exit.
verbal leases? Like he literally didn't have any
Bro,
signed paperwork?
he had nothing written down. He was just letting people move in.
Scout's honor. This is
Scouts on.
if you're a scout, you get to do just verbal
And
scout.
listen, it's fine, but you just have to prepare. So now when I'm doing this, like the one in Georgia that we're closing on, I'm already prepping for his verbal monthly leases by assuming 1/3 park turnover. I already know we have a collection loss. There's going to be like, it's good. Like I break it down to a third, a third, a third. We're going to have 1/3 that's going to leave, 1/3 that's going to be happy, and 1/3 is probably going to be a clusterfuck of not paying and maintenance requests. So like I just price all that in. We kept about 17 tenants and we had 12 new tenants, and you could see that number difference is because we have 3 that are being moved in February that we had our final evictions and stuff on that we were working through. And then we have 3 tenant-owned units that don't, and then 3 vacants that I'm still working on. And by vacant, I have one's a storage unit, one is gutted to the drywall, and one needs to be completely redone. So we had to finish all of our other stuff. I was going to do those 3 first. I budgeted for those 3. I budgeted like $60K for those 3. That was going to be what I did to occupy and fill up my park. And then all of a sudden, we had 12 units just turn over through. It was right after every month there was something. AC's going down. So I had to use that budget for all my turnovers that I didn't prepare for, because he's like, oh, yeah, they're all on leases. Don't worry. They love it here. They're going to stay. Not when a new owner comes in.
New owner comes in, raises the prices a little bit, and they're out. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you need to sign a 12-month lease.
So so here's a lot of like what our costs were for those turnovers, about 48K. And you can kind of see like how we went through.
Why did it cost 15K for one of them?
Oh yeah, well there you go. Hopefully if this guy's watching, you were fucking expensive, bro. When you're building,
give a donation if you happen to live at 1032 Deborah Lane or 10/20/45 Deborah Lane.
And what happened is that guy that we found first. It was one of our first turnovers. I'm pretty sure that was a vacant unit when we got it, and we had to remodel it, and I was looking for handymen, and the one that I found was extremely expensive. But in my book, so there's this thing that I always preach to my team on rental turnovers is like, listen, guys, if you're arguing over $2,000 or $3,000, that's 2 to 3 months worth of rent. So if it takes you 2 or 3 months to get to find a vendor and get it turned over, you could have just paid that guy the extra 2 or 3 grand and been even on the situation. So anyway, we moved forward with him, and then you could see like my costs going down as I was getting better at materials. Like he was buying materials, and I hooked up my Home Depot account, and I started doing everything with standard material lists, and I would just have standard pricing. So I got better as I went. We have a handyman now that's phenomenal. It just took me a while to get going on that. So our total income was $252K for that year. And let's see if we could kind of show you why. So we're not crazy on rent increases. So our strategy was, first we came in, we bought the park, and we improved some of the road conditions. We started getting some units, the vacant ones and turnovers turned around. And what we did, so you could see like this 700 to 950, these large jumps were the ones that went vacant. And so we were
So
able
you
to
can
go
put
to
the work into it.
and we went to market immediately.
Yeah.
So whereas this one, 700 to 735, was a very incremental increase for a long-term tenant. If they were willing to sign a 12-month lease, we weren't going to raise their rent to market. And you could see we did that even on this tenant-owned. Market's 350, so we went from 170 to 200. And this year we'll go from 200 to probably like 225 or 240. And we're going to inch them up slowly, but we're just not going to do to market rent increases.
Yeah.
Same thing with a lot of these. You can see 675 to 725, but look at this one, 500 to 900. That was a problem tenant that we booted out of there. She wasn't paying. She was related to the previous owner and just complaining all the time. We got her out. And now that's one of the ones the person's moving into, or that one they did move into, but 900. So we doubled our rent on that unit. And so that's kind of it. So if you take a look, like we went when we bought it, well, in Q1, when we bought it, it was about 19K. He was collecting 16. We were at 19 on rent roll. And then when we started doing our turnovers in Q4, but anyway, in Q1, we started out the year in $20,000. And by the end of Q4, we had increased rents to 24K. So we increased $4,000, a quarter base or a fifth of what it was. We added on to the top. So that's like a plus, right? But I still spent more than that to get it to this point. So we did 93 work orders last year in one park on 30 some units. And like you could see, majority of them, HVAC. General maintenance, yes. Like we have a lot of the general maintenance stuff. But 93 work orders to our occupied units, non-tenant owned, is roughly 3.1 work orders per unit owned
per year,
which is not bad. So I'm going to get into what it is. So this is why I like park owned units. It's not bad. What I didn't know, to pause here, is what I didn't know. AC costs and appliances. You need to look at the age. So this owner was stringing along his ACs and his appliances. Some of these things were 20 some years old. The AC guy, when they broke down, was amazed that they were still existing at this point. So the guy was basically just duct taping these things. And when I bought them, I didn't think, oh, wait, 30 some units, 5K in AC. Holy fuck, that's $150,000 I'm going to incur over the next couple of years on replacing these. I didn't think that. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm buying my first park. Like, this is great, And it turns out we had 22 HVAC requests, 17 appliances because he was stringing those along as well. And look at this. Our new installations, I spent $35K last year on new ACs. That's not even like the repairs, the maintenance, the servicing. That is just straight repairs. I spent over $50K when you combine in like the actual maintenance on them, servicing on them, stuff like that. But yeah, dude. Which is why, if you follow me on Instagram, we've now instituted a 90-day inspection, dropping off filters, making sure air filters are replaced, because our AC guy, although these were really old, all of these were like 20 plus years. He said a lot of his service calls had to do with servicing the ACs because they were sucking in so much just crap because no one was putting filters on the units. And he said,
not even like just a dirty one, just no filters.
Bro. I did inspections last week, and like one of them didn't even have any. The other one was brand new, because she knew I was coming.
Right.
She just fucking replaced it. So that's something. So think about this. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1/6 of my units, or 1/5 of my owned units, my park owned unit. So I can expect to probably incur over the next 5 years this amount almost every year, I would imagine, as they go to crap.
These are like I don't even know what the correct term. They're not window units, right?
No,
So
I don't do window units.
why? If somebody was to walk in and they're looking to purchase a park and they walk into that park and they see every unit has a window unit, what's bad about that?
So there could be a
Because I
good
see
and
that
a
a
bad.
lot here in Florida.
So there's a good and a bad. Florida's different. It just depends on who you talk to, man. Like if you've ever lived in a mobile, like it's so one, if you're in Florida and the sun becomes a problem, but one, the efficiency of a regular unit becomes very difficult because you don't have some of these older ones aren't truly insulated. So like your bill, your electric bill could be really high. And you're not preparing for that to run this gigantic unit to cool down your mobile home that's sitting getting baked in the sun. So a lot of people like window units if they own their thing because they can, if they're only hanging out in their bedroom, they could just put it on in their bedroom, stuff like that. But from a landlord perspective, I see people who do that who don't want to invest in their homes. So because it's expensive, like ductwork and ACs and HVACs, like these things cost 5-6 grand to put in versus a $200 AC unit. I've just seen a lot of issues with window units. I'm sorry, with a $300 window unit. I've seen a lot of issues with window units where when you put them in, if they're not tilted right or they're not being cleaned, the drainage goes down your wall and it rots out your entire wall of the framing and down onto your floors. I had that happen in a house of mine actually, and I had to reframe an entire back wall. Plus the way I look at it is like I'm trying to get like $1,000 a month in rent in this market. It's a good market.
So you want to have good
This
AC.
this AC is gonna fucking last me 20 years, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna make, because I'm gonna take care of my park. That AC is a 20-year AC.
Yeah.
That thing is I'm gonna have it serviced. I'm gonna put air filters in it for the next 20 years. I am good on this thing. That's $250 a year on this AC unit.
So when you installed these new ACs, you checked like insulation as well, or because you were saying like, or
No,
does
I
it
mean
not
you
get that
can't.
hot in Arkansas that you have to worry about the sun?
I'm covered in trees.
Okay.
And it does get hot in Arkansas, but it's Florida and Arkansas are completely two different beasts.
Yeah. And so ductwork for mobile homes is usually in the floor, right? Not in the ceiling.
Yeah, always in the floor. And that's the other thing is like, so the one in Georgia I'm buying, and this is where it gives the bad vibes, is like it's all window units with the exception of like 2 or so. And then so all the ductwork's gone. You have these holes in the floor that people have like taped up so shit doesn't get inside. And like they've patched it together. And then you look at your park and it's just like window units hanging out and like algae on the back of them and I don't know, my wife went through this when our AC broke down and we put window units in our house. I mean, apparently the mold growth, like there's all kinds of shit like health wise because the way these window units are built. I could go on forever on this thing. Mama P would be better to describe that. She went ape shit on our window unit while we had them, and we had to buy a special type of window unit that apparently doesn't get moldy. Anyway,
Interesting.
so I prefer having a full-on system, but you know, this one in Georgia, am I budgeting to go put new ACs on all of them? No, I'm not. Like
do you want to long term?
Depending on what I do long term, like when I put in, I got 30 vacant lots. Every new unit that I put in is going to have an AC system.
Yeah.
Every single one is going to be full on AC. And then I will pick the units that I feel deserve to have ACs on them because some of his units are really old. And then I'll look to either keep window units, sell off the unit, replace it. I mean, it's just a long term process, but yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
No bulk. I'm assuming no bulk. Like, if you were to come in and read, like, you know, if you were doing 12 out of 36 units, if you were to put like new AC in all of them, there's no like bulk. If you were buying them all from the same person, getting them all installed from the same person.
So I price checked my guy. So I called my Florida guy for all my flips and stuff, which I haven't done a flip yet this year. But anyway, I have a good relationship with him. He said that's a little pricey, but then again, my flip guy, you know, I've known for a while and he gives me very good pricing. This guy, he started out really high. I negotiated him down to this, got a set price on a set size and a set unit. And I did price check him one time. because like,
Yeah.
and my guy in Florida said that's not bad. He's making money off you, but not a lot. But like, could he go down to the low fives? Yes, he could if you really, really pushed him. But he's like, that was a pretty good price he felt for the unit and the system and the size and the tonnage. But I price checked him one time because I was like, he tried going up on me. So I called another AC company, and that guy came in like $150 higher than him just out of the yellow pages. And I was like, it's like, you know. So I'm sticking with my guy. I still feel it's a little bit high for all the business I give him, but you know, unless somebody
He's done enough of them, and they haven't fallen to pieces yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, he still made a fuck ton of money off me. Here's appliances, like, you know, that's something I'm looking into because the guy, I mean, again, he just duct taped his appliances. There's dishwashers from like early 1990s in there, bro.
Oh man, they have like knobs.
Yeah. Oh, dude, there was like a knob turn on the front with like dots, like you turned it by the, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, oh, dude, all right, let's swap this out. You know, it's like $500 for a dishwasher. We're turning our last turnover that's happening that we're rent ready for February 1st. Like, I have to do a full appliance swap on that too. I just did all the floors, repainted the whole thing, you know, and now I got to do a full appliance swap on it because these appliances, like the vent hood, is from the 90s. It's so big. And now when I take it off, I'm gonna have a mark on the back wall because the new ones are like this big.
Right. Yeah.
So
what's
a lot
an
of this
ice maker
stuff,
by its site? What's an ice maker by itself?
just the ice maker for the fridge needed replaced.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Instead of spending the $600 on a new fridge, you know. But anyway, so like my office put this stuff together for me. I thought this was pretty cool. I got
beautiful document. It looks like you're getting recruited by like UCLA football with the color scheme of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I asked her for just a breakdown of everything because I have to do an annual report for our investors and send out a letter with like, you know, here's how much we made, da 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 da. And I was like, put it all together for me because I was just going to put it into like my own thing in a letter. She sent me this and I called her and I was like, this is not what I wanted. I was like, but this is better. Now I will be expecting this every quarter. So I hope you have it set up in a way that you could pull this easily for every park we have every single quarter. So she does, but she did a great job I didn't put any of this together. I don't handle any of this stuff, but you could see the first one, the one pipe we did, lot 11, right there, $3,400.
Is it the burst pipe?
That's the burst pipe that I learned my lesson on. And that was burst. So that was April, but it burst long before that. But that was because it was sitting vacant while I was trying to find my handyman and get it repaired and all this stuff. Like, and it burst during that process.
Interesting.
So you could see that without that expense, though, we would have been really good on plumbing. Septic pump outs, so that's the other thing. We're putting all of our houses, all of our units on a septic schedule. So instead of waiting for someone to complain, they're now going on a rotation. Every month we will get like one or two pumped, or like one pumped because we have 36, one pump a month on a 3-year rotation. And boom, we don't have as many of these issues. That'll help.
Yeah.
We do pest control on all of our turns now. Every time one turns, we have a special price from our guy. He goes out, takes care of our any roach issues, anything like that. And you can see she broke down the type of repairs too that we do: appliance, plumbing, handyman, and how much. Look at that! Look at that AC one right there. 58 effing K just on ACs. That would be all in my pocket, or my investor's pocket, had I had known. Well, there's nothing I could have done other than maybe negotiate my price a little bit better, but I just didn't know what I didn't know.
But you had CapEx to cover that. Like you said, you took it from the budget of those 3 ones that needed total
it's not
rehab.
Just that. I mean, I had to account for that's just on ACs. I mean, I had to account for my turnovers. I spent $48K on turnovers this year. So, yeah, I mean, I had to use, luckily the park was making enough money that we were able to not only use our CapEx budget, but then our monthly income we were making, we were able to pull that into helping us do the turns and stuff. And our investors understood when we explained it to them. And honestly, it was because it was the first park I bought. I wasn't fully capitalized like I should have been. But now in the other parks that we bought, I have a full-blown CapEx budget that I'm prepped for everything that I plan for.
Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not being surprised. Some of them have like the one has like a $900,000 CapEx budget. Another one has a 1.2. Like, you know what I mean? Like just for infill, repairing, all the stuff that I have to do.
Yeah.
And so we switched over the year. We got better on our marketing and our processes. So we use Rent Manager now. We switched from Yardi, and just where we advertise all of our rentals helps us. So, you know, that's kind of it.
Nice. Very cool.
So you're going to unshare.
Very professional.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, she did a phenomenal job on that. I talked to her today and I thanked her for it. So, you know, she's been with our company for a while. We just kind of transitioned her into this role and she's excelling at it, really helping Brittany with the operations as we need to expand. But I think it's just important, like all of that is my fault. Mm-hmm. Every one of those things is on me as the acquisition and the operator that I didn't know. When I was buying, when I was asking questions, I was just like, cool, monthly leases. Now it's like, oh, monthly leases, high turnover. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're not collecting your rent roll that you should be collecting. So you're not collecting the 19K, you're only collecting 16. Now it triggers, oh, and you're on monthly lease. That's because everyone's leaving every month. So you never collect 100% of your income on top of the people that just aren't paying, that are staying and not paying. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get the low collection, the high turnover, which is a double-edged sword, because not only are you spending money on the turnovers, but then you're not collecting from some of the people that are there. Now you're getting like dabbed both ways. And I never picked up on that until after this park. And now I'm a little more knowledgeable when I'm buying them, what I'm looking for too. And I'm looking at AC units when I walk the parks now. Like I am eyeing up AC units. And
my question is like, what from park experience now, looking at the year, like what is it that you're like looking for in the due diligence period that you weren't before, and what is it that you're calculating into your CapEx that you weren't before?
So I could tell you this, like, so I kind of showed you my sheet before. So take a look at, share my screen, John. So like I walk this park, right? And like I'm looking at this. So now I'm starting to price in, and this is the one I'm looking at right now. I haven't even walked it, but like now I'm actually creating a CapEx budget, John. So like I'm going through and I get all the info. I talk to the seller or I talk to the agent and I figure out which units need what type of turn, how much money to budget for them. What's going on with the water lines? What's going on with the sewer? Do I need to clean up the yard? How much in tree trimming, which a lot of people don't worry about, fence work, road paving. I'm budgeting for all of that stuff. So like I don't have it open, but the one in Georgia, I actually walked into each unit with my Remarkable pad and I gave it a 1 to 10 grade, and every grade had a budget assigned to it. So when I was walking through, I'm like, this is like a 6. 6 is like an $8,000 budget. This is a 4. That's $12,000. And I would walk through, and then when I got back, I put that into my CapEx. And so you could see here on this park I'm looking at, I'm going to need a reserves of 1.4 mil in order to do what I need to do on this park.
Oh. So in your first park, how did you calculate your CapEx?
Didn't.
You didn't? You just said a random number?
Bro, honestly, it was like the guy that sold me the deal. No shit, dude. No shit. And listen, I am blessed to have the investors I have that, and we've already distributed money. The park's on the upswing. We've improved the value. We've appreciated the value. Like everything's going great with it. And a lot of that has to do with my background and experience. And then of course, Brittany and Argene and like the team running things. But I just was trusting. And the guy was like, listen, there's 3 vacants, honestly. And the seller, not even the wholesaler, the seller walked me through the one and was like, this will take me like $5,000 to put together. And it's like, it's down to the drywall. And I'm looking at the wholesaler and I'm like, do you really think it's going to take $5,000 to put appliances, cabinets, toilets, tubs, vanities, tops, sinks? Like $5,000 for flooring? To all of this he's doing for $5,000, and he's like 60, 70 years old. He's like, this will be like $5,000. I'll have this thing done. Don't worry about it. So
was the seller thinking he was going to do it for you for $5,000?
No, he was just saying he would have it done, and he never did it.
Okay.
But I budgeted for the 3 units. I budgeted like 20 grand a piece. So I was just like, I got 3 vacants already. That's
So you
20
didn't account
grand.
for anything outside of the 3 vacants.
I didn't
That was
account
it.
for landscaping, tree work. I did none of that. I didn't account for septic. I accounted for none of it because everything looked good, and I got extremely lucky. And I had investors that had dealt with me on the single family side of stuff and knew that I had never lost money. I handled every problem that ever popped up, and there was a lot of them flipping homes. And so they just equated that into this, and luckily that's how it turned out. But it has cost us money because it depends on the way you look at it. Had they have given me the money up front, they would still be getting distributions. They would have just have been out upfront money. Now instead they're getting lower distributions or delayed distributions as we take that money to fix the park. And so now also when I pitch it, I tell everyone year 1 you're not going to get any money. And so like that's not a good thing, but I just want to be upfront like, hey, it shows that you might get money this year, but I want you to be prepared that year 1 on a takeover of a park owned unit with vacant units and like year 1's going to be tough. We're going to try to do distributions, and if we raise the full amount, we should be able to. But I want you to prepare that year 1, we're just going to be focusing on our business plan, implementing it, and then having everything smooth and ready for year 2, and then have our business plan completed by the end of year 3, beginning of year 4. And that's when the park is fully stabilized. And, if you're investing with me, that's your expectation, and I'm just upfront with it. And that's what I learned. Instead of being like,
this is gonna be easy, guys. 5K.
5K. So anyway, so now I walk the parks, and I'm just, whether I could get a discount or not, I just put it in my CapEx, and then I see, does the deal work with these numbers?
Yeah. Let's talk about that some more. So like what's the difference between the initial offer and the due diligence period, and like what is it that you're gathering more of to see if the deal still works? Because like I was saying last week in the first series of this, I was like, why aren't you asking all these questions up front? And you're like, it's not important to do that. Like you just need to see if there's potential for a deal. Do the basic numbers work, and then you refine them from there. And is the refinement more about coming up with your CapEx budget that you would be raising the money for versus like getting a reduction on the price?
So no and yes. So like, I mean, there's known and unknown. So you can't, you could do whatever you want, but like in good faith, if I know about something prior to negotiating, if it's visible and readily available to be known, then technically I should be accounting for it in my negotiation. It's the unknown, not knowns, you know what I mean? That like that is what I am potentially going to come back to you on. If you've lied to me in some way, omitted something that you know about that like you didn't advertise, or you false advertised something, that's what basically I'll go back on. But I won't just retrade because my budget's higher than what I assumed. If I walk the unit, John, and I see there's no AC units, we negotiate, and then I go doing my inspection. I'm like, you got no AC units. Like, I can't, like, bro, like, I knew that when I drove it. If they put it in the OM or, like, the sales pitch, the sales deck, like, if I see that, like, I can't go back. Like, I knew that. But, like, on this one park, we're in the middle of, like, a renegotiation because they lied about their collections. They advertised what the rent was and did not say that they had never collected that much. So when I negotiated it, I negotiated on an assumed income. And then you're going to tell me that you're receiving $4K less every single month and you've never come close to collecting the amount that you gave your realtor to advertise? That's false advertising in my book, and that means that there needs to be a renegotiation. So,
do you see, just with the hot button topic of last year and this year, AI, do you see any AI implementation in the mobile business, like analyzing parks or data for acquisitions or data for repairs or something like that? I'm just curious with all the data points and the large numbers of like commercial or mobile or any type of assets like that's interesting because there's just so much that goes into it.
Dude, like, I'm not trying to dive too deep into it, but like, obviously, and John knows as a partner in a software company, John knows my ideas. I'll be texting John at all hours of the night about tech ideas I have. But like, yeah, I've thought of like on the maintenance side of things, like
Mhm.
a AI chat bot. You know, when they submit like something, they're able to go to a website and actually talk to somebody, and then maybe that bot, like if we had the ability to put a work order request in with a vendor, order something like that, I would love something like that to take the load off of my people. But no, I mean, we're not there yet. We don't use anything. But I could see that coming on, not just for mobile home parks, but multifamily is like that AI type of conversational chatbot. What's the problem? So not just like a chatbot, but I was reading somebody's AI text for like seller buyer type of, buying wholesaling. And it was pretty good, like the way the chatbot was talking. So something like this. Hey, I have an issue with my home. What's your issue? And then the person would be like, my pipes are leaking. Okay. Where's the leak at? And it's just asking these questions. Then it's like, can you take a photo for me and send it to me? Okay. Have you tried flipping the breaker? Have you tried this? And it's asking these questions that a lot of times solve the problem. Like we had one, the lady's like, my pipes burst. And then like 30 minutes later, after like Brittany had dealt with it, you know what the issue was? She just didn't have the knob turned the whole way. That's why it was dripping. Turn the fucking knob. It was wild, dude. So anyway, I mean, I could see AI chatbots coming into things.
It's being a person who has rented. Like, it's interesting. I mean, you probably don't experience this, Carl. Well, maybe you did before. Anyways, like I've gone from giant national landlord now to like a smaller regional kind of property management company. And it's interesting like how detailed their forms get, but they're just forms, right? And it's still like I'm a diligent person, so like I go in and answer all the right questions. And especially when it's like AC in Florida, they're like, is it frozen outside? And I'm like, I have checked the power to the thermostat, I have checked the filter, I've checked to see if it's frozen. And like I try to give them all this information so that they know like, oh, this dude knows what he's talking about, let's just go ahead and send out somebody to help him out. But yeah, I could see like a chatbot like being able to guide people through that and making sure that they're. It'd be interesting though, an AI chatbot that would analyze like pictures, like send me a picture.
I was kind of going for
problem.
I was kind of going for that type of stuff more so.
Something like that, and then even ordering the request. Like if you have a standardized vendor in a software,
just automatically,
emailing and being like, "Hey, we have a problem. Like, has the problem been verified? If yes, order it." Type thing.
Yeah.
So obviously somebody's listening. They're like, I shall go make this software. But yeah, I could see stuff like that. But right now it's like the good old boy. Like we use just the regular softwares to run stuff. Rent Manager's been good for us, and I learned that from listening to a podcast. So I did Yardi Breeze because that's what a lot of the big institutions, when I work for the hedge funds, they use Yardi. So when I started buying a lot, I was like, let's use Yardi like them. Then we realized how shitty Yardi was for the mobile home business. Listened to some podcasts. Everyone was talking about Rent Manager. And we switched over when our contract was up with Yardi. We switched over to Rent Manager in November. And for the last 3 months, it's been like a godsend. Everything's so much easier, according to Brittany. I don't do anything. I haven't even seen the system, but yeah.
What's the demographic age-wise of your tenants in that first park?
It's funny that you said my first park because it's a lot different than my other one. The first park is, I would say, 30s to 40s.
Okay, so you don't have a hard time with them adopting to online stuff.
We have one old guy that still sends a check.
Okay.
Yeah, he sends a check. He hand writes a check and mails it, which is fine. We could do checks. We prefer online payments, but he's
on time.
It took him a while to send it to the right company. It was a pain in the ass because he would write it to our other company, and then we would have to like deposit it and then transfer it, and then we had to record all that because like it's not our money, and and it took him a while to understand that you can't just write the checks to whoever you want. It needs to go to the right company. But otherwise, we switch them all over to online. So at this other park, the demographic is probably 60 plus. So that's very interesting of getting, and everyone's complaining about paying online. So that's going to be interesting, but we'll get it done.
Is that the one that's close to your current park or the one in Georgia?
That's the one in close to my current park in Arkansas. that I just had a burst pipe on, that I just had the cops at on Saturday.
Oh yeah, you were gonna go
and it was a cluster, dude.
The guy that with his power trucks.
Bro, so okay.
Any aliens there?
Bro, no, it wasn't. But I mean, so Tommy handled a lot of it. I went there Friday to talk to the guy. He wasn't there. Lied, didn't get his shit off. Told Tommy basically Thursday when I was getting ready to head out there that my manager, he told him that like he doesn't care, he's getting out there, don't bother him, like he'll get it when he gets it. He'll get his shit off when he gets his shit off. What's it matter anyway? No one else is staying there. And it's like, it doesn't matter, bro. I'm emptying the whole park. You're not paying. Get the F out. Anyway, so when I showed up, I actually got a hold of a tow truck guy. The tow truck guy came while he was there. That caused a scene. He then called the cops. I had a sergeant and a lieutenant out there. They had to get the city attorney on the line. I was at my other park while this is all happening on the phone with my manager. And the problem was they wouldn't listen to me. They believed the other guy. And so one, he's in a daily rate short-term stay, which automatically changes things. He then had his vehicles, his work vehicles, parked in my storage area, like a storage lot, which is what I agreed to in December, that he could leave them as storage, not relating to his short-term stay, but I would allow him to pay separate storage for those trucks for 1 month until he got them off at the end of December. So he had manipulated the truth and got the city attorney to agree that he was a long-term tenant, because all he said, he was there for 4 months. You're there for 4 months, but you're paying by the day, and you have to renew every single week with us. Every week, you have to walk up and pay in cash or whatever, because we have no leases there yet. We have no systems, and he's a holdover from the old tenant. Anyway, the city attorney agreed with him that I had to go through the court eviction process to get him out. And this was like me and him exchange words, bro. Like I was in the hotel downstairs in the lobby yelling at him because he was yelling at me, and like it was just a debacle.
This past weekend?
Yeah, this weekend while I was out in Arkansas. And anyway, like moral of the story was my show of force of actually having a tow truck guy out there, and then having my manager, even after I lost the battle with the police and the city attorney, my show of force and letting my manager tell him that it's okay. When I get a hold of my lawyer on Monday, my lawyer will call the police office, straighten it out what the actual laws are, let them know not to interfere with us, because that had to happen in Little Rock too. And then I'm going to tow, and I told him, I said, I was only being nice, going to tow 2 of your vehicles of the 8, just so you knew I was serious. But now when my attorney calls, I'm towing every single one of them. And he was out this week. He's gone.
See, there you go. Sometimes you just got to be a little forceful with people. They always try to take advantage.
And he did, man. And he did for months. We started this thing in November. Mm-hmm. He was going to be out by Thanksgiving. Then he was going to be out by December. Then he was going to be out by the end of December. And then he didn't feel like he had to pay because he wasn't really using the vehicles. And then he wasn't even using 2 of the RVs that he was taking up RV pads on. And at that time, I had like a 60% occupied RV park. And I was like, I don't care. He's like, what's the big deal, man? Like, it's not like anyone's living in there. Like, you're on my lot, dude. Like, that's not how life works.
You get freebies.
So like, and he tried, in his defense, he tried paying me last week and I refused. He tried paying me again on the weekend and I refused. He tried paying me on Monday and I refused. And every time my manager asked me, I just said, tell him I don't want his money. I just want
back pay?
No, to keep staying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he ran out of money on January 11th for his 3 RVs. Never paid for his storage of his work trucks. And on January 11th, when he heard the tow trucks were coming, he's like, I'll just pay you. How much do you want to stay? I was like, I don't want you. Yeah. The fact that you keep lying to me, like, I don't want that in my neighborhood. Like, I just don't want it. So, and it just sets a bad vibe. And you don't want somebody like that in your community, because not only does it set a bad precedent, but it's just like, dude,
they're probably there like talking up shit about you to other tenants. Just like
creates a bad scenario all around. Yeah. But either way, he's gone. I didn't have to recall the tow truck. My lawyer did tell me I was in the right, but he did tell me it's tough because I had nothing on paper. So my lawyer is now drawing up new A new storage lease, a new short-term daily rate lease, like everything is going to be brand new. We're getting online reservations, so they have to, every time they pay, they basically re-up their lease, which then starts it from scratch, so they can't claim that they're
Yeah.
there as a long-term tenant, which then I could provide to the police a lot quicker instead of having to wait till a Monday for my attorney to deal with it. So
Stuff you're learning about how to run a park.
it's always something, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway,
something.
but to bring it back, John, those are the things, all the repair stuff, all of the inspection stuff, all of the costs, those are things that I would do prior to buying a park with park-owned units. All infrastructure, septics, wells, AC systems, condition of the interior, monthly lease versus annual lease, are there deposits being held? All those things paint the bigger picture of how big of a problem it will be on day one.
So we're running out of time. So I have one last question, and we kind of touched on it last time. Like somebody who's a wholesaler going after mobile home parks to then turn around and sell to a buyer versus somebody who's coming in, sourcing their own leads and wanting to keep the parks for themselves. Is there any difference in anything that we've talked about so far between those kind of two scenarios, or is it always going to be useful as a wholesaler to be thinking about your end buyer and like this is what they are going to need in their capex, so I can therefore market it correctly?
No, bro. I mean, like, just make sure you have, just make sure you have like a 90-day due diligence period. Don't be, this is not a cash sale. Like, you're not going to find somebody with cash. I mean, you might, depending on the price, but odds are they're going to get financing. Odds are they're going to get seller financing, bank financing, private financing, whatever it is, right? And they're going to need time to do stuff, appraisals, inspections, septic, wells. The more physical the location is, like labor intensive park owned units, the longer the due diligence will take. So as a wholesaler, there's no 30-day or 60-day due diligence, especially when it's going to take you a month probably to find a buyer. So you need to be prepping your seller for a 90-day, maybe even a 120-day inspection period with a 120 or 150-day close. Like this Georgia park I put under in September, like we're aimed to close at the end of February. That's 2, 4, that's almost 6 months for an entire start to finish on this thing. My other one we did in like 4 months, I think, 3.5, 4 months. So like, and that's without having to deal with waiting to find a buyer with a wholesaler and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you could share my screen. Here are questions that I asked the seller.
Here's something that if you donate with the QR code and you message Papa P on Instagram, you might be able to get a copy of.
Papa P, and the P is for
Mr. Real
Pedersen. Park requests. So yeah, like you want 3 years of park tax returns, the month-to-month, year-to-date P&L, rent roll, tenant info, lease copies, rent-to-own or sales contracts, rule book, if any. You're trying to figure out what the situation is, because again, keep in mind, I ask this the day my contract gets accepted. You sign a contract, I'm emailing this over to you directly, your agent, the wholesaler, whoever it is. This is what I need. If it's not already provided, like I'll edit this. If I already have something, I'm not going to include it again. I'll just remove it and renumber it.
So these are things that you aren't going to ask for before you get the contract signed.
Because if you do that, you'll scare them away, bro.
Yeah.
Like you need to get you can ask some, oh, are they on a month-to-month? Are they on annual? But I'm not going to be like, before I make you an offer, I need all your lease copies. You will scare these guys away so fast. You need to be easy, general, summary when you're trying to get the deal. And if you know what you're doing, you'll be able to deduce a lot to be able to make a fair offer from that. Plus, you're probably going to drive the park, get photos of it with a runner, something to be able to like deduce what you can offer. And now, if everything they said was true, you just want to verify, trust but verify. So you want to verify everything that they said. So you want to verify their tax returns. How much did you make the last couple of years? I want to verify this rent roll that you say you have. And I want your P&L because you said you only spend $5,000 to put together a unit. Let me see that on your butt, like your actual P&L income statement. Oh, you said you have actual leases? Fine, you should be no problem to provide them to me then. So like these things I go through. And it keeps going. Tax bills. I want to know what you've done in the past because usually they'll brag like, oh, I've done this and this. Prove it to me. Show me that you did that. Otherwise, I have to assume you lied to me. Copy of titles. Why? Like, so the one in Georgia, the guy claims like I was getting 30 titles. Well, apparently he could only give me 27. I had it written in my contract that I'm getting 30 mobile home titles. He's now only at 27, and that's all he has for me. So he already, you know what I mean? I verified that. So now I know I'm short 3, and that he just claims he doesn't have. Any past due balances, like I want vendor information, like who are you working with, like records, anything that you have that you could put together. If you're working with an agent, a good agent will probably already have most of this. A good agent will help the seller and work with the seller to do it. If you're doing this as a wholesaler, you will have to coach and prep the seller to do all this to provide for your buyer. This is just stuff that you don't want to scare them away with up front. You want to work with them as a team to put together. Like when I asked the last owner this, the agent had to help him put it all together for me. And I didn't even get half of this shit.
And that was going to be one of my questions. So if they can't provide some of this, then it's kind of telling into what every negotiation
I assume the worst.
Yeah.
I assume the worst. Oh, wait, you can't provide me. So like he started putting together his P&L stuff when he enlisted it. Like he didn't have any prior records. He couldn't prove to me his deposits. And then as we got it under contract, I kept asking for updates. So like his September, October, November, December started to become more accurate. And he actually started making deposits instead of keeping the cash, because then he realized he had to prove what he was making. And that's when I found out he wasn't actually collecting what his rent roll said. And then when I figured out why, then I knew like this guy has a verbal lease turnover issue, and that's why even though he claims he's collecting 19, he's not really getting 19.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
So that's just something that I send over to them. And then I also have a different letter we can go over next week that I send to the city or the county to verify all that stuff. And
that's
then
a good point.
And so the important thing, a lesson I learned, is that you don't, you have your due diligence date start when you get all of this back from the seller.
Okay. And you recommend, even if you're wholesaling this, you should go get this information. Don't go find a buyer and then wait for the buyer to ask you things to then go ask the seller things. You can get all of this ahead of time, ready for your buyer.
I would say if you're a good wholesaler who has a good deal, then yes, it would be good for you to do it. I mean, if I was doing it, then yes, that's what I would do. But a lot of guys, like, you just take a park down, you have no idea what you're doing, and then you're going to waste the seller's time to do all this, and you can't even find a buyer. Like, cool, you just help the next guy out. The seller will have that already, but then you might turn the seller off from talking to another somebody because look at all the work you made him do, because they're not going to have this shit, dude. Like, most of them won't. Unless you're talking to an actual operator, they will, like me. If you ask me all this, bro, Brittany will probably have all this, and Arjun, they'll put it together in like a week, have everything stacked together, organized in a pretty PDF, and like given out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like when I sold InvestorFuse, like we went through due diligence period there, and I mean there were questions that were asked. So I was like, holy crap, I'm having to go back 6 years, and we weren't always organized. Like once Rachel came in around like what was that, year 2 or 3, like she really helped us get organized on some of the things that we were missing the boat on, and she was the one that helped through basically all the due diligence and making sure we had it. But there are things I would do differently now when setting up a company based off of what I learned in my first due diligence period, selling a company, of like, okay, this is like, in order to make this go smoothly, which it still went smoothly. There was no red flags, but it's just like, holy crap, like this stuff.
No, and that's
I should have been more organized.
Yeah, you learn from what you did to what you will do now, and like the mistakes you made. And that's how I am with this, is like, now that I've looked at so many, we've switched the way our accounting books, like our GL accounts, are set up, because I'm like, well, we got to split this up, and this up, because that's what I want to see when I'm asking. If we're not tracking that and somebody asks us, how hard is it going to be for us to go back, open the curtains and line item and then redo everything just to answer a question? Let's just do it up front. Let's split lot rent. Let's split home rent. Let's split the RTO income. Let's define what the RV, let's not dump it all into one bucket. Let's split everything up. Let's have an Excel workbook that breaks down every single repair by code so we can filter and search it. So, and that's stuff. And like, we keep our vendor info. So yeah, it's it should be something a wholesaler does, but just recognize you might not get it all, and they're probably not going to put it together for you. They'll probably do the shoebox method. Like, I don't know, but here's everything. And then you're going to be the guy putting it in an Excel sheet, putting a PDF together, you know what I mean? Trying to call the city for the tax amount, doing all those types of things. You'll probably wind up doing the most of it. But listen, you're probably going to make like 100 G's off selling a mobile home park or more. So it's probably it's definitely worth your effort. And I will be able to make a decision faster from a wholesaler with that info. I hate when I get wholesaler shit and like half of the info is just like pictures. It's like a generalized P&L statement and that's it. And then I have to start asking questions and I feel like an ass because it's like, bro, like I got to ask you about 100 questions now. And it's like, I can't give you the quick decision that you want. Like how many units are this? What's this? When was the last time they did this? What type of material are the pipes? And it's like, if you have that info and you send it to me, give me a day or two. I'll have you an offer back. Whether you like the offer or not, I could do it.
Interesting. Well, thank you for part 2 series of mobile home park investing. I feel like we all have learned something here.
Yeah.
And then, we've got another part coming up next week, and we'll see if we get through it all. Maybe there'll be a 4th. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel like next week we should go through some of the due diligence with the city, and then possibly getting into the financing aspect of it, how to buy your park.
Love it. If you're interested in maybe a resource you saw today, scan that QR code, donate to the podcast so we can keep growing it. Send a message to Papa P, and he will
let me know.
He will hook you up. And that's been it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow us, links.letstalkrealestate.tv, and we'll see you all next week.
Lock and load.